I'm Professor Sam Twiselton. My day job is Director of Sheffield Institute of Education at Sheffield Hallam University. Right now though, I'm spending a lot of my time working with the DFE, chairing an advisory group who is supporting the work to develop a new framework for ITT, which is designed to dovetail into the early career framework. If you're going to be a teacher, you are going to be really making a difference to actually all those other professions that you might be considering going into, because without good teachers, none of the other professions would exist. If you're a teacher, you have the potential to really make a difference. You are transforming people's lives by opening up the potential that they have and kind of opening doorways to all their kind of possibilities in their future. It's an amazing job from that point of view. I think that potential to make a difference needs to be as visible and obvious as possible, and sometimes some of the technicalities of how to become a teacher get in the way of that. I think it's also really important that it's clear that when you join the profession, you will continue to be supported and developed. You'll get great grounding in ITE, then you continue to be supported and developed throughout your career. That is something that is very clear on some of the other graduate options that are available. I think as a profession, teachers don't always make it as visible as possibly they could do, and the opportunities right now in terms of education are immense. You don't just be a teacher and get stuck in the classroom necessarily. You can have a role that will take you out of your classroom, working with other teachers, working in other schools, specialising in particular things, changing the age groups that you work with. The opportunities are amazing, but as a profession we need to make sure that they're really visible to those people making those choices. I think firstly it's important to say it's not unusual for people to leave professions early. If you look at the statistics across other professions, teaching isn't as massively out of kilter as sometimes we think. Having said that, the stats are getting worse and there are more teachers leaving every year, and they're leaving earlier every year, so we need to take that seriously. I think for me there are two, maybe three big reasons. One is the expectations on new teachers can be quite high and sometimes a bit unrealistic, given that they've usually had less than a year training before they get that first job. With the accountability system as it is possible sometimes for some schools to expect teachers to be able to hit the ground running in a way that isn't reasonable. They're still learning, and one of the great things that the government is doing about that in terms of the early career framework is making that clear and visible. They're still learning, and expectations need to be adjusted. The other thing is workload, which obviously comes a little bit with that, because in order to meet those expectations, often teachers are kind of working very long hours in terms of preparing lessons and so on. Again, government doing something about that, making resources available so you don't have to plan lessons from scratch. But again, it's possible that leaders sometimes have unrealistic expectations in terms of the kinds of things they're asking teachers to do. And the research that the DFE have been doing has been showing it's not so much the amount of work, it's actually the fact that a lot of the work doesn't feel like it's having an impact on that thing that brought them into the profession, which is the potential to have an impact on pupils and really make a difference. If they feel like they're spending a lot of time entering data into spreadsheets, for example, that doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to make them a better teacher in the morning. So I think there are things that probably leadership and culture of schools need to just stand back and ask themselves, are my expectations realistic? And are they actually in the end going to help these teachers feel like they're doing a good job with the pupils that have brought them into the profession in the first place? So DFE have published a recruitment and retention strategy which contains a number of things. For me, probably the most prominent one is the focus on early career teachers and indeed training teachers. And they have developed this early career framework, which will be a framework which sets out a kind of entitlement, a guaranteed entitlement to ongoing support and development in the first 2 years after qualifying. Alongside that, there'll be an ITE framework which guarantees that people going through their initial teacher training will have the kind of foundation, which means that they can then benefit from that early career framework when they get their first job. That means that they'll have a minimum of 3 years guaranteed ongoing high quality support and development, both in terms of the training that they'll have access to, but also well-trained mentors to support them in their learning in school. I think this could make a huge difference. Not only does it mean they're getting more time to develop, but it's also changing the narrative in terms of how schools think of their early career workforce, and they recognise that they are still learning and that that's fine, that's completely normal and a good thing. And actually I think it'll be good for the mentors as well, because we already have mentors in school, but they don't necessarily have access to high quality mentor training. This will give them that, it will give them hopefully a sense of status, it will give them themselves the opportunity to kind of reflect on practice, and could be a stepping stone for them into something like the specialist MPQs, one of which will be teacher developer, which again it came in with the strategy and is a good way, I think, of holding on to teachers, and as well as holding on to them, making them better. So I guess it's almost like a summary of some of the things I've already talked about. So it's making visible the opportunities that are available in your school, which are undoubtedly there, but don't necessarily always get mentioned in job adverts and so on, in terms of support and development and career progression. It's understanding the importance of developing and nurturing your early career teachers and giving them the time and space to reflect and having realistic expectations on them in terms of what they can and can't do. It's about really thinking hard about the way all the teachers in your schools are being asked to spend their time, and are some of the things that you're asking them to do that is taking a lot of time actually going to make that much of a difference to pupils. And if it's not, then possibly it's a good time to kind of question whether you can reduce or eliminate some of those things, so that people's time and attention is spent on the thing that brought them into the profession in the first place and gives them the job satisfaction that they're looking for, which is the impact on pupils. So some of the things I've said already in terms of supporting and developing, and when the early career framework does come in, getting behind it and recognise the importance of making sure that the timetable can accommodate it and that mentors can be released and that you've got the right people being mentors. All of those things will make a difference. I think another thing that is really important for early career teachers is that they've got access to sort of peer support. So making sure that they are able to meet up with other local NQTs and RQTs, and again that might just be a question of being accommodating in terms of timetable, etc. If you've got several NQTs in your school, maybe having the opportunity for them to come together regularly would be a useful thing. I think also access to things like subject associations can make a big difference, particularly in secondary, but probably increasingly in primary too. Lots of resources, but again also opportunity to network with peers who are focusing on the same subject as you can make a big difference. Not all of the support needs to come in school. Quite often it's helpful to have places that you can go outside of the school as well. Those are just a few of the things. I think so probably the most important thing is having the kind of conducive culture in your school, where people feel like they belong and they want to belong and they're being supported and they're being developed, and being looked after.